distinguished members of press, I would like to greet you all with the most profound feelings, love and respect. On October 30, the magnitude 6.6 earthquake that took place in Izmir, of course, affected all 83 million people of this country, especially the people living in the region. Right after the earthquake, with all the means and institutions, our state rushed to the help of people of Izmir. With the support of other institutions and authorities, search and rescue, removal of debris, damage assessment, and also relief for the victims have been ongoing. Due to sea surge, a citizen lost her life, and we have pulled 110 people from under the rubbles, unfortunately dead, and about 1,000 of the injured have now been discharged from the hospitals, and 144 of them are still receiving treatment. Some of them are in severe conditions. The number of the people pulled out alive from under the debris is 107. Every citizen, every child pulled out alive from under the rubbles, of course, saddened us very deeply, and we all feel the sorrow for all who passed away. And we will not lose on our hopes until the very last moment. We continue with the activities about search and rescue. So in the region, about 1,600 aftershocks took place, 44 of which were over the magnitude of 4.4, and the sea surge left Seferihisar underwater, about as high as a meter, and many citizens were rescued. The Minister of Interior Affairs, coastal security, disasters and Emergency Management Agency of Turkey, Turkish Red Crescent, as well as National Medical Rescue Team, the Minister of Family and Social Affairs, as well as other ministries are on the scene. The Minister of National Defense, the Ministry of Natural Resources, the Ministry of Urbanization and Transformation, the Ministry of Transportation, they all have mobilized their means in the face of this earthquake. And with the Ministry of Justice, interrogations or inspections have started about the collapsed buildings or heavily damaged buildings. To the help of the victims, the whole region displays any sort of help. Turkish Red Crescent, as well as numerous NGOs, are tirelessly working, and they're on the site day and night. For the earthquake-related works, about 8,000 staff and 1,200 vehicles are operating. We established 2,700 tents, set up 2,700 tents, and supplied all materials for the survivors of the earthquake. In tent towns, we have about 6,700 citizens accommodated now, and we can increase the capacity of that in accordance with the needs that will emerge. And of course, all public authorities are at the disposal of the people of Izmir. In Bayraklı, a container city will as of today be established, and in 20 days it will be ready for use. The collapsed or buildings, or the buildings about to be collapsed, of course, are watched, and we will be providing a relief, a financial assistance of 30,000 liras for each citizen whose home is about to collapse or which have collapsed. We will also allocate many other grants for our citizens, and we will allocate a 29 million lira budget to all our institutions for them to utilize. Mobile systems, staffs, and vehicles are operating. When it comes to the citizens whose workplaces have collapsed or about to collapse due to heavy damage on the buildings, and also for the citizens whose workplaces have been affected negatively by the sea surge, we will be allocating a grant of almost 50,000 per person through TESCOP and Halkbank. The credit installments that our citizens affected by the earthquake are paying will be deferred for a year. According to the reports, there are various buildings which are heavily, mildly damaged, and in Manisa we have 16 buildings which collapsed, and in Izmir 17. Bornova, Ali Ağa, and Seferi Hisar are the districts where we see the heaviest damage on the buildings. And according to the damage assessment and in accordance with the loss adjustment, the necessary response will be given for those buildings, and we are planning to start our housing projects immediately. The Housing and Development Administration of Turkey is going to be building many apartments, and the construction budget of investment exceeds the figure of 2.5 billion. And so far, 16,776 houses have been constructed and delivered to our citizens. And now 19,000 buildings have been identified, and some 17,000 of them have been deconstructed. According to the reports, we will be adding the necessary number of houses to be constructed. As you can see, the earthquakes do not wait for us, and we therefore are to complete the construction of all the remaining housing projects before long. When it comes to the public premises and buildings, there has not been a severe damage reported, other than some minor issues. This disaster has shown that Turkey is located on an earthquake line, a fault line, from its very west to its very east. Even the earthquakes we experienced over the 50 years is enough to show how this danger is big in its scale. We experienced Elazığ and Malatya earthquake very recently, and before that we experienced the Van earthquake and also Düzce, as well as 1999 Marmara earthquake. Erzurum, Çaldıran, Dicle, Bingöl, and Gediz earthquakes took place in the past. This is a result of the laws of the functioning of the earth crust. Of course, we cannot prevent such disasters, but there are certain preparations we can be engaged in before and after such disasters. Therefore, we will be speeding up the urban transformation projects and raise awareness in the eyes of our people, and also improve the zoning and construction projects. So far, there have been 688,000 buildings that have been reported as damaged across the country, and a high number of them have been deconstructed to be reconstructed by new buildings. and we have so far allocated 15.5 billion liras for all those affected by all the earthquakes in our country. In the upcoming periods, we have a target to transform 1.5 million buildings. The number of the houses that Housing and Development Administration of Turkey has reported is 970,000. So we plan on starting the construction of an additional 100,000 new buildings for our people. Of course, this is not a problem that the state authorities can solve on a standalone basis, and the citizens are expected to exert further efforts in terms of reporting the resilience of their buildings, of the apartments they live in, and report to the relevant authorities accordingly. And we have to be well prepared and prepare our infrastructure in the face of these earthquakes. And thank God we have covered a lot of mileage, and with the support of our citizens, we have to speed up our work and secure our neighborhoods, our districts, our buildings resilient and safer, because the lives of our people are more valuable than anything else. In order to protect each and every citizen, protect their lives and, of course, properties, we are determined to conclude everything necessary as fast as possible. But of course, for our unity, togetherness, fraternity, during these rough times when we need those the most, what upsets us the most is the exposure of those who try to smear and who come up with lies. There were some who said a Turkish Red Crescent was not present in the scene, and that some victims of the earthquake were not supplied with tents, or people played music as we arrived in the scene. Many lies and speculations took place, and the fact that the main opposition party took a part in that, and even the fact that it is itself the main source of those lies, is very much upsetting. Only this morning, a child was pulled out alive from under debris, and we enjoyed that moment altogether. And there are some who are ignorant, who have no conscience, who are abject to say that the necessary work is not being done. It is even itself a heavy burden to even discuss that with such people. In the past, there were those who were indifferent in the face of such things, and a member of such a political party who did those in the past is now uttering such words, and the leader of this main opposition party unfortunately never gives up on his lies and continues to speak them. No matter who they are, those people who speak lies about such a disaster like earthquake, I believe, are monsters whose hearts have turned dark. So such creatures should be held accountable by our nation, and they shall be, I believe. And using this opportunity, I again wish for a swift recovery to the people of Izmir. So now you are an MP from Izmir, and how many days have you spent in Izmir? And now you claim that for 5 days the debris is in its place. So for how long have you stayed in Izmir? You should not even have left the city. You should have traveled across the city. So you are not doing any of these, but you will continue to slander. But no, And you, on the other hand, will claim that Turkish Red Crescent was not actively taking a role. We were there with Turkish Red Crescent. We were there with Disaster and Emergency Management Authority of Turkey and many other NGOs. And we will not leave the city until the very last moment. The moment will come, and only then we will believe that there is no one alive under the rubbles, and only then we will be done with our work. So until then we will continue to work, and all our members were there. And during the crisis, I held meetings with all members of the cabinet. The mayor of Izmir Greater City was also at that meeting. We held a meeting with them in Izmir as well, because we need to be making good evaluations, because we are not administrating a tribe. We are administrating the Republic of Turkey. And now we talk about a great city like Izmir. Such a big-scale disaster took place in Izmir. So in the face of such a disaster, we have mobilized all of our means, and that mobilization spirit will continue until the very end. May God protect us against all such afflictions, challenges, diseases, and problems. So I wish that the chairperson of the opposition party could have called and asked what they could do for their share. My dear brothers and sisters, the coronavirus pandemic is spreading across the world with new surges. The number of the patients is now about 47 million, and the number of deaths, unfortunately, is about 1.3 million. And some European countries have now again chosen to go for lockdowns, and in many countries it has come out of control. And in some cities of our country, from time to time, we see some increases that are worrisome. But generally speaking, we are going through a very well-balanced and well-controlled process. Thanks to the efforts of our healthcare professionals and their self-sacrifices, we have not been encountering very serious problems. The daily reported cases are at a level where we can well manage. So our biggest weapon against this disease is, of course, the main three rules we need to all adhere: personal cleanliness, face masks, and of course social distancing. And I would like to call on all my people to comply with the rules. The vaccine-related studies are ongoing very effectively. So we will be, as planned, practice the vaccines that are developed in other countries, and our own vaccines will be put in use during this next spring. So until then, the only effective tool to protect ourselves is, of course, the main rules, the basic fundamental rules about this disease. So I expect to see a higher level of sensitivity to come from our people, and only then we can curb the spread of or further spread of this disease. And I would like to share certain issues with my people. The private sector and the public sector. In those sectors, flexible working hours will be encouraged. When it comes to the areas such as marketplaces where a high number of people are present, audits and inspections will be done more frequently. Restaurants, patisseries, barber shops, wedding halls, pools, swimming pools, Turkish baths, springs, saunas, internet cafes, theaters, cinema places, and all such similar places. The services will end at 10 p.m. in those places. and we suggest our citizens avoid crowded areas and kindly ask them not to visit one another at their homes. So on one hand, our government is fighting against this pandemic in the most effective way possible, and on the other, we are acting with the responsibility of the risk and the potential of everything coming to a halt in many fields of our life, of course, considering economy and all the other relevant issues. But so far, we have kept the course of the disease under control, and in many areas, we had restricted or imposed restrictions into before have been normalized, and this is also the case for our education, for our schools. We shared with our people that face-to-face education, partial and online remote learning activities will be simultaneously conducted, and according to the course of the pandemic, we will be making re-evaluations for other fields. And the second half of the year, yes, of course, was under the shadow of the COVID-19 period, but we have seen a limited shrinkage in our economy during the second quarter, but during the third quarter, with the new decisions we made and also with the immunity we have achieved in the face of shocks, we completed the third quarter with success. When it comes to our sales volume in retail, we have observed a 30% of increase on a year-on-year basis, and the capacity usage has been registered at 33%. And for the third quarter, it has increased up to 77%. When it comes to the increase in economic trust index, the figure has been registered at 36%. When it comes to our export volume, compared to the previous quarter, it has increased by 34%. And speaking of our house sales, the sales have doubled and was registered with the sales of 570,000 houses. And in the second half of the year, the figure totally exceeded the figure of 1.2. And another development took place, important development took place in the automotive industry. During the first 9 months of the year, the number of the vehicles sold has neared the number of 900,000, and the automotive industry grew by 93% throughout the year. Taking a look at the economic indicators, we can see that we have started the last quarter of the year in a very resilient position. And the trust index has increased 2.8 points on a month-on-month basis, and the economy trust index also registered a tremendous increase when it comes to the manufacturing industry procurers managers index. The figure has been registered at 53.9%, which remained over the threshold. Since February 2018, it is notable that many fields registered their highest. In export, we have broken another record. Our October export volume has exceeded the figure of $17 billion with an increase of 5.9%, and it has broken the record. It was the ever highest figure in the field of export. Many companies also face difficulties even to address the needs, the demands coming through and through in organized industrial zones to increase the production volume. We even faced some difficulties to manufactured to produce the demand through the machinery needed, but such an increase in demand and such good developments, of course, are promising for our future. Automotive textiles, grains, furniture, like sectors register increases that indicate that this course, this positive course, will be permanent. I would like to congratulate Kocaeli, Bursa, Izmir, and Gaziantep for their great performance. Our economy will sustain this course in the last quarter of the year, and I believe firmly that we will be closing the year with positive figures, with plus figures. So if we work hard and all together, we can see that there is a bright future ahead of us. Turkey in its region has observed many instabilities and has been shouldering the burden of the humanitarian problems on its own, from Iraq to Syria, from Libya to the depths of Africa. There are many oppressed and downtrodden, and we are reaching out to them all in line with the means we have. But the worst thing is that there are some who do create such things and shed the blood of people. In Iraq, 2 million, in Syria, also about 1.5 million, and in Africa, in Latin America, millions of people lost their lives due to such people. This order of colonization and oppression they have ruled for centuries have started shattering now. And now they are exerting efforts to hide the outcomes of their actions. Turkey, on the other hand, is upholding its heritage that comes from its civilization and history. And the more Turkey does, the bigger the scale of those attacks become. Even in the face of the smallest incident, immediately the Muslims are targeted. If there is an incident of violence, and if the suspect is a Muslim, then it is immediately labeled and stigmatized as a terrorist attack. But if the suspect is of another religion, they either define it as a law enforcement issue, or the perpetrator's actions are concealed because they claim that this person was not mentally stable. Last night, a bloody attack took place in Vienna, and I strongly condemn this attack. No matter who the perpetrators are, such attacks can never be pardoned. I extend my condolences to the people of Austria, and also wish for a quick recovery for those wounded. And now there are some who push the boundaries to even redefine Islam. And the Baktashis of Albania, for example, was declared as some coming from another sect, and some tried to alienate them. They did the same for many Muslims living in Europe. And now they're using some people coming from Europe, and now they have a claim to change Islam holistically. But we know what the realities are. There are 2.4 billion Christians, 1.9 billion Muslims, and 1.8 billion Hindu or religion members. And a century ago, the figure was much lower. And as you can see, any group of any in any group of faith, there is an increase in number, but the number of the Muslims is increasing, ever increasing. And in Africa, for example, from Africa to Southeast Asia, from America to all across the world, in a very large geography, the spread of Islam cannot be prevented. And this development is taking place even in an era when the Muslims are oppressed, aggrieved, their their resources are exploited, and they are isolated. And on top of that, if you add the history of the Turks and its sphere of impact over the centuries, some cannot tolerate that. Yes, of course, Asia, Africa, the Mediterranean, and also the geographical riches and the strategic importance of all those geographies should not be forgotten and kept in mind. The reality of the whole world is now revealed in this geography yet again, and Turkey is trying its best to build the most fair, just and equitable future for its people during such a period when we feel the difficulties, the challenges of the reordering of the world. Turkey's proud stance is effective, and there are some who fear that their ivory towers will collapse, and that is why their fear is more and more visible to all. And behind every threat, every blackmail, every accusation against our country, this fear stands, and we will, of course, never avoid this responsibility that falls on us from our coming from our civilization and culture. It is the biggest matter of honor for us to shoulder that responsibility. So all 83 million of this country will never refrain from shedding blood, our own blood, and also sweating. So may God be of help for us, guide us, and I would like to thank you all very much. Stay in health.